What do you guys want to talk about?
Let me talk to you.
Throwdown Nation, we are live. It is a Tuesday night. We are rolling on Instagram, on YouTube, on Twitter/X, on Facebook, and on Twitch. It is episode 116 of the Throwdown with Matt, and today we are throwing down with a tag team based out of Connecticut, the Duke Boys. All go Nelli and Corey Duke. Right now, we've just got Nelli. How you doing tonight, sir? Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me? You hearing me, Nelli?
Now I hear you. Sorry, I was wondering what was going on.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, like I said, we are throwing down with a tag team based out of Connecticut, the Duke Boys. All go Nelli and Corey Duke. Right now, we've just got Nelli. Hopefully, Corey will be along soon. For those of you that are watching this live, if you have questions or comments, just throw them in the chat and we'll either handle them as we go or do a little Q&A at the end. So we'll go ahead and get started with the first and the most obvious question, and that is, how long have you been wrestling both individually and in the tag team with Corey?
This is a funny question. So me and Corey started about a year ago at the same time in April. We're about a week apart. We both started training in April. I started my first match in August. I believe he had his first match in May. But we've only been teaming since January. Very short time, but we've traveled the road together a lot. Connecticut, North Carolina, Maine, Tennessee. We're just on tour right now.
Nice, nice. So who actually trained you guys?
Who didn't train us? The main trainers are Paul Roma and Mario Mancini, legends of the WWF. And they've trained a lot of people who have come down and helped us too. Famous names like Richard Holiday, Brad Baylor, Miracle Generation, Kylon King, and Dustin Flash Waller. We've had the Haven there, Jay Onyx, and Sean Knight as well. A lot of people have definitely helped us out at our school.
Nice, nice. I'm a big fan of Richard Holiday. I think he is incredibly talented and also incredibly underrated.
I 150% agree with you. I think he's the best independent pro wrestler talent right now. And like you said, highly underrated. Give him his flowers.
Absolutely. So, in terms of the early portions of your training as a wrestler, what aspect of professional wrestling would you say was the most challenging part for you to wrap your mind and body around?
I think, just how to like put together a good match. I think we've all had our fantasy in our head of like, like what a good wrestler is. And when they tell you the simple things will get you over, the simple things get you over. I don't think I've ever done a backflip in a match once or anything like that. Just keep it plain and simple, nothing too fancy. And, I think that was the hardest part at first to understand, was just like keep it simple, but make it like meaningful.
Absolutely, absolutely. Something I neglected to tell you, before we went on the air, we do something here called the speed round game. And what that is, I've got a list of 10 names, and periodically I'll stop, I'll say speed round, and I'll name a name, and you just tell me the first things that pop into your head. And there's a there's a theme for tonight's speed round, and you'll pick up on what it is pretty quickly. But speed round, FTR.
Can I curse on this or not really?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Fuck the revival. Is that it?
Well, I actually, I've seen FTR meaning a whole lot of different things. I've heard the fuck the revival. I've heard fear the retaliation. I've heard all kinds of things. But so what do you think of when I say FTR?
I think of the revival. I think of the tag team, but I just remember that huge feud with the Young Bucks and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yep. So one of my recent guests actually brought this up, and I've actually incorporated it into my repertoire of questions just because it's kind of a unique challenge. He had the idea of basically a wrestling TED talk or an elevator talk, and the challenge that he came up with is try to sum your wrestling persona up in 5 words. It's not that easy.
All gas, no brakes.
I like it. Okay, Jacob Fatu. So, I'm presuming that you've been a fan of this stuff at the majority of your life. Is that pretty accurate?
2006 was the first time I watched WWE. It was a SmackDown episode in November. That was the first time I watched WWE. And yes, I've been a fan my whole life, and that's pretty much how I got here.
So do you remember what you saw that first episode? Do you remember who was on? And tell us about your earliest memory.
So I remember just seeing Fit Finley fighting someone. Michael Cole was on commentary. Vito, who was part of the FBI, recently had a gimmick where he was wearing a dress to the ring. So I remember that. MVP was hot at the time. He was going to feud with Kane at Armageddon. So was Mr. Kennedy. He was feuding at the time with the Undertaker. So the Brothers of Destruction, they were teaming up like every week, taking on King Booker, Fit Finley, MVP, Mr. Kennedy. That was my earliest memories of WWE. Just pretty much watching SmackDown. Didn't know Raw was a thing. Didn't know ECW was a thing yet, but just mainly watching SmackDown in '06.
Got you. So away from wrestling, what are some of your other hobbies and interests?
I'm a boring person. I pretty much work, work out, do my chores, and then something wrestling. I'm either watching wrestling, I'm practicing, or something like that. But if anything, I do like watching like anime in my free time, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, stuff like that. Traveling, getting out there, hanging out with my friends. Like I said, I've been in about 8, 9 states in 1 year since starting wrestling, and
Nice.
just the traveling it's a lot, but it's fun, and I'm so happy. I get to say I've gone to that place.
Yep. So you mentioned anime. I don't have a lot of knowledge or experience in the world of anime, but I'm always, this is mostly a wrestling related show, but we do dabble a little bit in pop culture, so I'm always looking for good recommendations for stuff. You got anything cool you're watching right now that you'd like to recommend?
I don't really watch anything right now. Literally, I've been up since 5 a.m. Gym, work, gym again, and here I am. But if you had to watch something, grab that Naruto. I think it's one of the best written shows I've ever.
Got you. So, outside of wrestling, what person inspires you the most and why?
I think, to be honest, it would be either like my dad or my mom, just how supportive you could reach a point in your life when you just realize everything that they dealt with you, everything that they do for you is just out of pure love. And I always try to give that love back, not just to my family, but to the fans as well. To people around me. I'm a fitness coach on the side, so I probably train about little over 100 people every week. So showing equal love to each and every one of them. It's a lot, but it's worthwhile in the end.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Well, it sounds like while you're pursuing your dream, that you've got a really great support system. So uh, tell us a little bit more about that. It sounds like your family loves you and is really backing you in this. So what do they think? What's the overall opinion on the whole thing?
I think the overall opinion is that I've inspired them to chase goals no matter how old you are, no matter how unexperienced you are on stuff like that. I've seen a lot of people congratulate me on that. I think so too. The over thing is like I'm not a unhappy person, but when you're doing things that you like, your energy is different, your smile is different, your smile is genuine. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
When you're, I did undergrad, I did grad school, and like I'm not smiling in class. I'm not paying attention all the time. But and so that was kind of like fake fun. But now this is like they truly see like having fun, talking to people, just enjoying life now. Like I can finally sit back and say like I'm actually like enjoying my life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I've been doing live streaming since it was a year ago in January. And when I got started with it, I was actually doing live stream chats with unsigned bands. I'm actually a hobbyist musician. I'm a bass player. And so I got started doing that. And then last July, I expanded the content into wrestling. And I discovered fairly quickly that it was easier to get reliable bookings with wrestlers than it was with musicians. So I, pretty quickly changed the entire focus of things to just focus on the wrestling side of it. And, being now a small part of a business that I've loved for 40 plus years is the coolest thing in the world, and focusing on the indies and helping tell the story of people chasing a dream is just it's been just nothing like it, man. It just puts a smile on my face.
People like you are fantastic. We have two people in Connecticut, Uncle Otis, Rick Del Santo. They put in so much effort to help the New England scene, especially the Connecticut scene. They put in so much time and effort on their own, the miles on their own and stuff like that too. No one's asking them to come. They just show up. And just seeing the people that show up to help, even though they're not wrestlers, even though they're not technically a part of the team, but they're here to help spread and here to help us get our faces out there. You just said you have some people from England on your show, and I'm sure they really appreciate that. So having you reach out to us saying, I want you guys on the show, of course I'm going to say yes. Like, why would I say no?
So you mentioned that you're currently based in Connecticut, but you're originally from DC. So, what is your favorite thing about Connecticut, and what was your favorite thing about DC?
Well, let me start with DC. DC is a little bit easier. I think
Okay.
DC, I love the variety of people there. I like being able to walk around the beautiful architecture of DC. That's something I like. Connecticut, that's a little tougher. Um, I think the best part about Connecticut is just being like almost like in a good part of New England in the tri-state area where it's like I I've gone to Boston for the weekend. I've gone to Long Island for the weekend. I've gone to New York City, Jersey, places like that, So just having so much places that are actually close to you and just being able to experience a little bit of everything.
Gotcha. Speed round. Fraxium.
I got nothing. I just think of Frankenstein.
So you're not familiar with Fraxium?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, they're a tag team that were they did really well on NXT, and they just got moved up to SmackDown. It's Nathan Frazier and Axiom.
Yes.
You know who I'm talking about now?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, just didn't know the tag team name.
Gotcha. So, they say that the best wrestling personas are essentially yourself turned up to 11. So tell us about in-ring Nelly and kind of compare and contrast him with everyday you.
Pretty much the same person, almost. High energy, motivating, never giving up. Always focused on their on the goals and stuff like that. Just yeah, like that's pretty much who I am. I just keep going, keep going, keep going. And he's just always happy or tries his best to be happy. There really is no difference between them. I would say the only difference is outer ring Nelly is just kind of a person who just is focused on work. Not always fun. Likes to have fun, but work is the primary goal.
Gotcha. So tell us about your very first match. What was it like? How did it go? What were your thoughts going in, thoughts coming out? Lay it on us. Tell us about the first one.
The first match I had was against Killa J, a young lady from Connecticut. It was at a brewery, and I had fun. I have my family there. I had my friends there. It was very nice to have them there.
Mm-hmm.
But like you know, um, I was a little nervous at first, but once I was done, and I just took a breather, and it was nice. Some people wanted to high five me afterwards, some people take pictures afterwards, so it was pretty awesome. I felt it was a pretty cool experience.
Very cool. So you said your first match was an intergender. That's interesting.
Yeah, she was an in ring. She was more in ring experienced than me, and she
Mm-hmm.
needed an opponent for the brewery, so I decided to step in.
Very cool. Yeah. The other, I guess it was either last week or the week before. I had a guy on the show named Stan Styles, who he is actually the head of the Intergender Bonanza, which is a promotion that does nothing but intergender matches, and he. His whole thing kind of started in a similar fashion. He was at a show, and there was a female competitor there that her opponent for that night had something come up and couldn't make it, and he had his gear with him, so he's like, "I'll wrestle you," and it really it came off very well, and people loved it. So. And now they just did their 25th show. So, it's, the intergender stuff is definitely catching on. So, we've heard about the first match. Now tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of.
My favorite match was a singles match down in Florida I had with a fellow Connecticut resident. His name was Young Boy. Trained out of Test of Strength Wrestling. Um, he's another young guy full of talent. Just I've always wanted to work with him, either tag or one-on-one, and that was a very great match I had with him. I would definitely want to do it again. Just the athleticism we showed, the aggression we showed. I think it was a really, really well put together match.
Gotcha. So, and I know everybody has them, but what is your biggest in-ring pet peeve?
What is my biggest in ring pet peeve? Uh, I think trying to shot someone up from the top rope. I don't know. That's probably my biggest in ring pet peeve. That's the only thing, but I don't really have like like a big pet peeve. That's hard. That's tough to think of.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Speed round. The Rascals.
Yep. Yep. I know the Rascals. Yep.
Yep. What do you think of them?
Great. I think that's another like energetic. Like kind of like they have an interesting look to them. They got the thing
Yeah.
like I catch myself doing this. Like I think it's cool. I think
Yeah.
good tag team. Yeah, but and athletic, very athletic. I wish I could do half the things
Oh,
they.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you could only be one, would you rather be great in the ring or great on the mic?
I'd rather be great in the ring. Someone can always talk for me if I have to.
Yeah. So, you haven't been in the business that long, so I don't know if you've really developed a preference, but do you prefer working heel or babyface?
I primarily do babyface. Sometimes I'll do heel in practice. I like heel a little bit more, but babyface is fun too.
Gotcha. So, in terms of your in-ring work and your promos, who would you say are some of your influences? Who have you, taken inspiration from in terms of other wrestlers?
That's such a tough thing to say because when most of the wrestlers you watch are, growing up, especially like someone like Undertaker, Kane, Triple H, those are big guys. I'm only 5'6", 170 pounds, so I'm not doing a lot of stuff they do. But at the same time, when I'm no Rey Mysterio, I'm no Billy Kidman. We're doing all that stuff, so it's very hard to say like who I like to model off of. But people that I enjoy in ring 100%. Eddie Guerrero, Owen Hart, Tajiri. Those are some people that I really enjoy watching and basing off of. I was actually watching some Tajiri earlier. Promo wise, I just Rock and Austin. No one touches them. I think they're excellent.
Gotcha. So, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? A match that just stands alone, that you can have watched it a million times, and it just never really gets old, and there's always something you can pull from it.
I think all time. I'll say I have two. I think all time, which is like no one will touch that level. I like Cesaro versus Cena on a random episode of Raw. I think it really showed who Cesaro was. I think that was a night where he really got to show off his stuff. But I think but a match that I continuously will watch over and over again is Mike Awesome versus Masato Tanaka at ECW Extreme Rules One Night Stand 2005. I love Extreme Wrestling. I'm not the Extreme Wrestler, but there's just something, Mike Awesome, big dude, super athletic,
Mm-hmm.
and Tanaka, he's crazy. He's crazy, I saw him at GCW. What was it? The Hammerstein a couple months ago. I was like shook to see him there and still doing that stuff. It's like, wow, you're an inspiration for someone like me.
Absolutely. So, in your opinion, who is the best? Who are the best male and female wrestlers in the world right now? Who is on top?
I got my guy answer. Um, Woman. Hmm. I guess I'm gonna have to go with Rhea Ripley. I think she's on top right now. No one's touching her. Like she's just dominant in the ring. She's also just like she has that look of like you just something about her is just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Guy wise, I'm gonna say right now has to be Seth Rollins. I would say if I would make it a hard argument for AJ Styles, but I think Seth Rollins right now. I mean, he's been in the business for such a long time, and he knows how to adapt.
Yeah,
There's
he
there's
does.
there's no one like him who's adapted like him to stay relevant, to stay on top, change his moveset, change his like attitude. He's so good at that. And I'm just like,
Yep.
how like I'm having trouble with character development. And this guy, he'll do a new character next week. It's like, oh my goodness, how do you do that? Like you're so good at that. Just so good at that. You like keep it up. Like we're gonna have many more years of Seth Rollins because of stuff like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And um, have you taken the time to get on the web and do a little bit of digging and look at his work as Tyler Black on the Indies and in Ring of Honor?
To be honest, not so much. Um
You
there was
owe it. You owe it to yourself to do that. You don't really see the whole of what the guy can do without delving into some of what he did as Tyler Black. Man, uh, that dude is amazingly talented.
Oh, definitely, definitely. That's what I'm saying. He's just so talented, and it amazes me to see just how he just like how he keeps doing it.
Absolutely. And you were mentioning Rhea Ripley. Something that I'm really excited for, and I feel like within the next couple of years we're going to get it. Now that Jordan Grace is in the WWE system, I want to see Jordan Grace and Rhea Ripley work a program together. I think the two of them could tear the house down.
Definitely, 100%. Yeah.
So, who would be a dream opponent for you? Who would you, and this can be present day or past, who would you love to have the opportunity to share a ring with?
Shingo Takagi from New Japan. That's another guy where like I want to go one on one with him. I think it'd be a tough fight. I think it'd be a great fight.
So, what is your favorite move? What is something that you just really enjoy doing? And on the flip side of that, is there a move that you won't do or you would at least rather not do? And that can be giving or receiving.
I think my favorite move. I love doing a splash. I love flying in the air. Especially, I like my people further away. I feel like that helps me a little bit more. I think my least favorite is probably chokeslams hurt the most. I'm not gonna lie. Chokeslams for some reason just always hurt the most. But I would say that's the least though. Might be monkey flips. They're cool, but like they suck.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Um, being just a fan, I don't have the full perspective on stuff. I mean, I've been in a ring, but I've heard from people that have wrestled. I've heard them say, you know, being up on the top turnbuckle is higher than you think it is.
100%. It's actually a little bit higher. You're like, oh, it's nothing, and then you get up there, you're like, damn, it's actually kind of high.
Yeah, yep. So, you're still a pretty young guy, and you're new-ish to the business. So this may not really apply, but I'll ask it anyway. And that is, what hurts right now?
Back,
Back.
back. That's pretty much it. Taking bumps all the time.
Gotcha. Well, what is the most significant injury that you've suffered, either wrestling or training? Hopefully you haven't run into much, but has there been anything that's taken you out for at least a little bit?
No, nothing. I haven't taken
Good.
any time off.
Awesome. Awesome. So, what is your take on the role that social media is playing as a promotional tool for wrestling, specifically indie wrestling?
It's 2025 and social media is like the thing. Like people will have businesses that are strictly on social media. People will only contact, via social media, people will also, just that's how they spread the word. I try to post as much as I can on social media, let the world know who I am, because some people, they're going to get noticed because they're great wrestlers. Some people are going to get noticed because they have just great social media, like, and what goes viral. That's what wrestling is really like looking for. Like, how can we make sure that we're going viral right now? All that stuff, that's social media is just so important. How it shows who you are too. It shows like what type of person you are, especially like the Facebook and the Twitter. So it's a great tool. It's a great way to express yourself. It's a great way to show the fans like what else is you're about.
Gotcha. Speed round. The Motor City Machine Guns.
Great people, great people. I love them, especially during their TNA days.
Yeah. Yep. So, knowing everything that you know at this point in your life, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Chase the dream. Chase the dream sooner than later. You never know what's gonna happen. Um, Relax. Everything's gonna work out. Everything happens for a reason. Just because one thing didn't go the way you wanted to, something else is gonna open up. Guarantee. And be a nicer person. You're not a bad person, but be a nicer person. Be nicer to yourself. Be nicer to other people, and just always have a smile on your face.
Gotcha. So, do you have any pre show traditions, any things that you try to do consistently before you walk through the curtain?
Stay warm. I'm always cold. I have a hoodie on. I have sweatpants on, and my sweatpants are like jogger style, so I will squeeze them over my boots, over my knee pads. I will stay as warm as possible. Um, Walk back and forth. Try to warm up, loosen up a little bit. Don't want to get hurt in the ring, and that's really much it. I try to be present in the moment. Try to see what's going on around me, what's going on in the matches before, what's going on in the matches after. Try to be involved as much as I can. Make sure everything's running smoothly, stuff like that. But that's pretty. I don't have any like crazy ritual before.
Gotcha. So, just a quick rundown. What all do you carry in your gear bag? Do you have anything interesting or unusual in your gear bag?
I have like 50 go signs, go and stop signs in my bag, and maybe like 10 bandanas. But that's really it.
Gotcha. Well, something that we've done in all of these that's just been kind of fun is we've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. And like I said, my previous guest was this tag team from London, England. They call themselves the Ashes. Their names Angelo Shaka and Zaire. And the question that they posed, it's two questions. I had mentioned that my next guest was also a tag team, so the question that they posed is, when are we wrestling you? And and then the second question is, if you were to put two singles competitors together, one from WWE and one from AEW, into a tag team, who would you put together?
The first one, I'll answer the second question first. The
Okay,
second question, I would probably put together Seth Rollins and Kenny Omega.
I like it.
And to answer the first question, I've been reaching out to as many people as possible. I've reached out to people, like, again, I'm in Connecticut. I've reached out to people in California. I've reached out to people in England. I was actually close to going to Wales for a wrestling camp. Just the timing wasn't going to work out. But I want to go to London. My best friend's from London. He lives in Chorleywood. I've been trying to go back there. We're trying to go on tour. We want to, at the end of the day, if I don't go to WWE, if I don't go to AEW, if I don't go to New Japan, I can at least say, I wrestled this tag team from London. I get to
Yeah.
say, I wrestled in London. There's some people, they may never leave their school. They may never leave 20 miles. They may never leave 30 miles. And some people, they haven't even flown for a match yet. So to fly overseas for a match, to fly out of country for a match, I think that's pretty accomplishing in my eye.
Oh, for sure. But whether you're 20 miles from home or 20,000 miles from home, you're still chasing the dream, and you're betting on yourself. And that is just such a cool thing. And the thing that's interesting about that team, the Ashes, is they actually came to America, and where they actually met training at Black and Brave, under Seth Rollins in out in Davenport, Iowa. And that was sort of, so Black and Brave was sort of the birthplace for their tag team. Uh, you know, uh, Angelo, one of them is actually Australian, but after Black and Brave, he decided to move to England to tag with his buddy. So they're in London right now, but they're considering possibly moving to Canada. So
What part of Canada? Because me and my tag partner are heading to Canada this Saturday, Montreal. So, and
I I actually don't know what part of Canada, but after this is over, I'll send you their Instagrams and hook you guys up, because I think you would actually enjoy having a conversation with them. They are a couple of really cool guys.
send them my way. Me and my partner, we are the AIWF tag team champions. Are you familiar with the AIWF?
No, tell me about it.
We are a brand with over 150 promotions, with the including the US and outside the United States, which is why we are going to Canada this weekend. We had a big show a couple months ago back in North Carolina, and we actually had we had a couple people over from Nigeria there. So we've had people from all around the world, and we keep growing every day. I think we've just recently collaborated with some people down in Mexico as well. So the whole point is to help small promotions, feel big. We have an AIWF network too. So, we're
Nice.
just, again, like you said, we're here to help independent wrestlers get their faces out there.
That is actually really cool. And I love your idea of a Seth Rollins Kenny Omega tag team. That would actually be pretty amazing to see that happen. I could I could actually see that going far.
Oh, 100%. I think, look, do it. Someone do it. I want to see it
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah. So, since this is part of a series, do you have a question that you would like to pose to the next guest? And I can go ahead and tell you the next guest is actually tomorrow night. I've actually got a deathmatch wrestler by the name of Jamie Jameson. He goes by the Hammer Lord. So, and I've had a few deathmatch guys on the show. That style of wrestling is not entirely my cup of tea, but the thing that I enjoy and respect about that style is how they manage to do such a brutal style of wrestling, but do it in such a way that they still manage to keep each other relatively safe, and while they don't emerge unscathed, they at least emerge without usually any permanent injury.
When are me and him having a match? That's my question to him.
Okay, I will definitely pose that. That'll be interesting. So, would you, out of curiosity, would you be willing to do a death match?
Let's see. Let's see what kind of weapons we're talking about. I've seen some crazy weapons brought out on death. Maybe we'll start with a hardcore match. I don't know all about the
Yeah,
death match stuff. I remember first GCW show in Hartford, main event. It was forgetting the names, but they they had glass tubes, and I'm probably standing maybe 20 feet away from the ring, and first light tube breaks, and it goes a piece goes flying past my head, and I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, it's everywhere, and pay your dues. We had to clean that stuff up afterwards. I'm like, it's everywhere,
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. One of the most twisted things I ever, I've watched a little bit of deathmatch here and there, but one of the most twisted things I ever saw on a death match was a guy brought out a bucket of Legos and power bombed a guy onto Legos. And it's one of those things that you see it, but then you think about it, and have you ever stepped on a Lego?
Yep.
That hurts. I couldn't imagine getting power bombed onto Legos. I mean, to me, that would almost be worse than thumbtacks.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So we're getting toward the end of things now. So do you have any, you mentioned Canada, but do you have any upcoming stuff you would like to give some hype to?
May 16th, Paradise Alley fights, East Haven, Connecticut. If you're in the area, definitely pop out. And I got so much stuff coming. I don't know. I know I'll be back in Canada in June and July. Pretty much I'm saying is, I'm young. Me and my partner, we're young, but we're hungry. Like I said, I've started wrestling in August, but I've already wrestled in Maine, New Hampshire, Tennessee, Florida, North Carolina, Massachusetts, New York, and we want more. We take us all 50 states of America. Take us outside the country. If you need tag team, need a singles tag team, let us know. We're always available.
Absolutely. Well, as far as what we've got going here at the Throwdown, like I said, tomorrow night, 7 p.m., I've got episode 117 with the Hammer Lord, Jamie Jameson. Thursday, the 8th at 7 p.m., I've got episode 118 with a Louisiana-based ring announcer and commentator by the name of Sammy Kiss. He is currently the lead commentator for Wildcat Sports in New Orleans.
Okay.
And then this coming Tuesday, the 13th at 7 p.m. Eastern, I've got episode 119 with an Atlanta-based wrestler by the name of Herculon Rage. He currently trains and competes for WWA 4 down here, which is a school and promotion largely run by AR Fox.
Ooh, Connecticut guy.
Yeah. So anyway, before we wrap this up, do you have any final words for the audience? I'm sorry that Corey didn't make it.
I was texting him. He had some technical difficulties. He couldn't. Happens. But I'm sure he'll be here next time. Like I said, hey, we're the Duke Boys. I'm All Go Nelly. My partner is Corey Duke, and we would love to come to a town near you.
Absolutely. So, until tomorrow night at 7 p.m. with Jamie Jameson, in the meantime,